This podcast contains explicit language.
Holy merd.
Houston, flight is go.
Mila, let's go. SPM. Safety contact.
From Assignment X, thesoniashow.com, and Amalgamated Storytelling, this is the Dorking Out Show, the podcast for people who love stories from movies, TV, books, podcasts, and everywhere else.
Welcome to episode 106 of Dorking Out. This is the Wrinkle in Time edition. With me today is my co-host, professional writer, and author of The Sonia Show, my good friend, and a woman that is better than me in every way, Sonia Mansfield.
Finally, we get some truth on this show.
Listen.
Hey there.
Hey. Listen to the very end of this episode, and you will hear the original intro to this show, which is something quite different.
With me today is my co-host, Emmy award-winning filmmaker and nerd author, Christopher Allen Smith.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm
In
sorry.
this episode, we're going to review A Wrinkle in Time, which opened this weekend to so-so reviews and $33 million at the box office, coming in second to Black Panther, which is just dominating the box office. You should listen to our Black Panther podcast. Directed by Ana DuVernay, I think. DuVernay, damn it.
Do you ever check in to
No.
see how these things are pronounced, ever?
I'm awful.
All right.
She also directed the documentary The 13th, which is currently on Netflix and is awesome. So if you haven't seen it, you should see it. And she also did Selma, which I still haven't seen. And it's based on the beloved book by Madeleine L'Engle.
I'm going to give you
Sure.
a pass on that one. I did
Okay.
not check.
I've never read the book either. Have you read this book?
No, I haven't. And I think
Okay.
we're going to get into a discussion about that because I believe you were of the opinion that when a movie's coming out, you got to read the book before you go see the movie.
No.
Oh, am I wrong?
No.
Oh, okay. I take that back then. I thought that was your usual conception of these things. All right.
No, it is not. Okay, so
continue.
the movie stars, I'm going to give a little rundown. Movie stars Storm Reid as Megan Murry, a middle school student whose brilliant scientist father, played by Chris Pine, has disappeared while working on a way to travel through the universe, because that's what scientists do. This is not a spoiler, but 4 years after his disappearance, Megan and her younger brother, Charles Wallace, played by Deric McCabe, and her friend Calvin, played by Levi Miller, must search the galaxy for him before something called the It, not to be confused with Pennywise IT, a different It, destroys the universe with its negativity. Luckily, they have the help of three beings to help them on their adventure. Mrs. Whatsit, played by Reese Witherspoon, Mrs. Who, played by Mindy Kaling, and the godlike Mrs. Witch, played by the godlike Oprah. Smith, what did you think of A Wrinkle in Time?
I don't know. This one is really difficult. I was thinking about it. Well, let me step back. I was not a huge fan of this movie.
Yeah.
But it is different from a lot of bad movies. I guess, well, maybe it is or it isn't. What I was going to say is it is different from a lot of bad movies.
This is different than from other bad movies in that I like this one.
Exactly.
And
No.
therefore it's good.
That's right. There was a time when a movie that misfired, it would have like a bad script, but then also maybe the costumes were bad, and then the special effects weren't that good, and maybe the casting was meh. So there were several indicators that the movie isn't that good, that you can pick on pretty early on. This one was very strange in that the casting is fantastic. The set direction and production design is fantastic. The
movie looks beautiful.
The performances, except for one, you know what? All of the performances are fantastic.
Oh, but you said except for one. Who?
Well, I did, but you'll see in a second.
Okay.
All of the, the special effects are gorgeous. The design is great. but the script is so cloying and boring and trite, and I have not read the books. I've heard a lot about them. I've heard a lot of love for the Wrinkle in Time stories. I would be shocked if this was very close to any of those books.
This movie is very sincere.
Right.
But almost completely humorless.
Yes. And not in, not in a good way.
There's nothing fun.
Right. Yeah. In
this movie. Yeah. It should be fun.
It should be fun. Well, that's the thing, is it should be fun, or if it's going to be grim or quote-unquote realistic in the way that, because what happens is, Meg, the main character, the tragedy that befell her father has kind of changed her. And I do have to say, I did break out into a little bit of a cold sweat as I watched the story beats of this movie for reasons that may or may not eventually become clear when it finished.
I wondered about that.
Oh, God. Anyway, I'm not rewriting the first half of my goddamn book for a 10th time. I'm just not. Anyway.
Okay.
I think I'll be helped by the fact that people will probably forget this movie in 3 weeks.
But they're not going to forget the books.
I think there's a lot of universal things going on in the books.
Yeah. No, there is.
They'll be fine. But anyway, what I was going to say is Meg, played by Storm Reid, is actually the kind of character that I like in kids' that I call for more in kids' movies, which is kids are not always up and happy and plucky. They're not always filled with wonder. Sometimes they fear things. They're sad by things. They're angry about things. They react to things. Kids are real kids, and I think a lot of movies made by adults don't give them that chance. So I liked her.
Normally, they're little adults, which this movie actually has as well.
Exactly.
Charles Wallace is a little adult.
Well, here's the thing, and that's the thing that's very interesting about this is Meg's younger adopted brother, I guess.
Yes.
Played by Deric McCabe. The performance of this kid, finding a kid that can do what this kid does, is very, very difficult, as we've seen from the Star Wars prequels or a million other movies. Finding a kid that can execute as many different things as this kid is asked to execute is very difficult. So I want to say his performance is really good. The problem is the conception of that character is so cloying and annoying. It's kind of like, I don't know, what is it, Young Sheldon on CBS with a little bow tie or something? It's like he's this little adult that talks like a little adult. He's got his little adult, vest and long sleeve shirt, and he looks clean and sweet in every single shot, and he's just so awestruck with wonder every time the camera's on him. It's just the character is ridiculous, and that's I think where I'm coming down on this is this, and I think the reason that this movie and a lot of kids' movies fall into this category, and actually, something that I'm writing kind of falls into this category, which is when you have a kid's adventure. This happens with Harry Potter. One of the things you got to do is get them out from the influence of adults, because then the adults will just step in and fix everything. Right. And they have to have some emotional journey to go on where they can have the thrills of danger and all that kind of stuff. We've been talking about this since Hero with 1,000 Faces, Star Wars, whatever. This movie is just, the first half of it is Oprah Winfrey, Reese Witherspoon, and Mindy Kaling just telling her things about the universe, taking her someplace, giving her a speech, taking her a new place, giving her a speech, taking another place, over and over and over.
And Oprah's totally just playing like Oprah, right?
She is, and that's
Oprah telling like a young woman to be her best self doesn't seem like a stretch for me for Oprah.
It doesn't, and I will admit, Oprah she's one of those stars that I think are that are actually kind of my favorite stars in Hollywood, in a sense. It's as they go through their career, they build up this persona off the screen and on the screen.
Yeah.
So they can take on these kinds of roles, and it
Right.
really means something. Like, I would say she's kind of like a John Wayne or a Humphrey Bogart or a Sean Connery, where when she shows, or even
When you
sometimes-
get you cast Oprah for an Oprah-like character.
Right.
You know what like you would say, like, I want someone who'd be like an Oprah.
Right. And so it's fantastic. The problem is the service to which those characters are put, I think, is just so much expository blather
Yeah.
that it really, like, every time I looked at this, it's like, wow, this really looks gorgeous. This is really imaginative. This is really beautiful. This is really this. But Sweet Christmas, the script underneath it is just so pedestrian and leaden, and
Yeah. This movie was
driving
kind of
me
a
up
mess.
the wall. Yeah.
It's kind of a hot mess, this movie.
And I don't know. And here's the thing that I'm wondering about. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to do a little half-ass internet research here real quick.
Okay, so maybe I'll say what I think here.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think the movie's kind of a hot mess.
Right.
But I do want to say, like, I like that it's a movie for kids. Like,
Yes.
it's not a family movie. Like, it's not for adults too. Like, I think this is like a movie that's made for kids. And I don't think they make a lot of these anymore that aren't animated,
Right.
you know? So in that way, I thought it was kind of cool. I like some of the messages in this movie, and there's some really good moments. Like, I mean, I love the idea, like, you know, it's telling her to, like, turn her faults into strengths. That's a
Right.
good message. You know, I love it when the boy Calvin compliments Megan on her hair at one point, and she's like, you know, she kind of like can't even deal with it. But later in the movie, as she starts to like be more accepting of herself and her, you know, she can just say thank you. I thought it was a nice moment.
Right.
But it's just there's just no fun in this movie. Like, it is just so earnest and sincere, and those are good things, but there's just no joy,
Right.
I guess, is what I'm, you know, and it was kind of boring.
It was.
But I thought, gosh, it could be like a 10-year-old might love this movie. Like, if I brought my niece, who's 10, like, she might think this is the best movie ever.
Right. Well, you know what? I don't know. See, that's the thing is, and I kind of rail against this a little bit, is I don't believe there's a lot of things that are for kids are kind of like, well, you know, that's a kid's movie, so what do you expect? It's going to suck. That kind of thing. And I'm not saying that you're saying that, but there is that kind of, well, this isn't for adults.
Well,
I would say any good movie that is directed at kids will have something that adults that can put themselves back into that kid place would appreciate or understand. And this, I thought, was just blah.
I just thought, like, I feel like a lot of family movies rely on, like, a wink and a nod to parents, or it includes something like gross or ironic or sarcastic, or, you know, any of these things to, like, connect, I guess, with people. Like, this one's for you, you know.
Right. Hey,
and
here's
you know,
like Shrek. Shrek did this
exactly.
a lot.
And
Yeah.
this movie doesn't have any of that.
Right.
And when I keep coming back to, like, just how very straight the movie is.
Right.
Like, it's got a good heart. It's just, you know, like I said, it's just lacking in the joy, I guess. I'm not saying, like, oh, they should have pumped it full of fart jokes or something, but it's just very, you know, stoic.
It is. And that's the thing. And I want to step back and I understand It is a good message, and this is a message that comes out a lot of Hollywood, which is believe in yourself, and love is the only thing you need. Believe in yourself, I get. This whole love is the answer to whatever is just such a vague, pablum, BS-y message for a movie, I think, in that, it's love encompasses so much, means so much, takes us in so many different directions. It's like almost like a nothing word the way it's used in movies like this that I was just really irritated. Like, love is the thing that lets us move through the universe.
She had the power inside of her all along,
which is not necessarily a bad. That's the thing, is that's kind of what's going on with
the universe is right here
in your heart. Exactly. That's the thing, is that is not necessarily a bad message, but when it's done so that's what it is. When it's done so generically as this movie, it just becomes insufferable. Mr. Miyagi had the way to reveal that, you had it within you the whole time. He just had to teach you and bring it out in this cool, clever way. This movie is just nothing. It's just oh yeah. So
I really, really wanted to like this movie.
I did too.
It has so much going for it. Like, I went into it like really hoping to really enjoy it and be transported, and I was in, and it just didn't happen for me, which is a bummer. And the word of mouth on it isn't super awesome, and I don't see it making as much money as maybe Disney would have liked. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of good things about it, but I can't recommend it to people.
All right, so here is the half-ass internet research that I was doing. Yes, that's a term that I've taken from the Rewatchables podcast because it is so perfect for what we do. So if you take out the Pixar movies, the animated movies, the Marvel movies, and the Star Wars movies from the Disney slate, Disney is having a really hard time making good movies. If you take all those things out, this is what they produced recently: Wrinkle in Time, Pirates of the Caribbean, Beauty and the Beast, which it was a big hit, we have to admit, but it was, didn't do that great.
Right.
The Big BFG, which we were not huge fans of here.
I didn't even bother.
Alice Through the Looking Glass, which exactly. Jungle Book, which was a big hit. Then we go to Tomorrowland. And you can see that takes us back to 2015.
You see where we're going here.
You see where we're going, which is Disney has then you can go back, there's Maleficent, which was fine, I guess. Mr. Banks, good, okay. But then you don't have to go too far back before you get into the other bad Pirates of the Caribbean movies. John Carter, which was supposed to be John Carter of Mars, 2012. Disney has a huge problem making good. They keep trying to, take a swing at this pitch, making these new, wondrous, kid-centered movies, and they're having a really hard time. They're really biffing it. And I don't know what to say.
I like the term biffing it. I just haven't heard that in a long time.
Exactly. So I don't know what to say. Like, it's kind of like Marvel's going great. Star Wars is going great, despite what the haters say. It is, with the problems that John Lasseter is having, we get to see, it'll be another year or two or three before his leaving Pixar will have its effect.
Well, this is based on there's a whole series of Wrinkle in Time books. This could have been just another Disney franchise, but maybe after this one.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing, is they keep trying to do this. They keep trying to launch these franchises on their own, which I don't fault them for. That's the business that they're living in. But when they do it on their own, and now that I think about it, I felt like this had a lot in common with Tomorrowland, in that you could almost see the well-meaning but kind of clueless studio executives talking about, well, let's make sure that they're empowered, and let's make sure that they're, believing in themselves.
Can you empower her by 7%?
Exactly. There's definitely that vibe in this movie, in that all the edges are sanded off. It's like I was kind of really interested in Meg, really thought that she was a cool character, but the adventure they had her going through was just like, oh my God, this is just, in a weird way, it crystallizes my irritation with Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, which is there's another kind of, maybe the thing that we've been looking for out here this whole time is love. It was just like, oh my God, shut up. That is what, maybe it's a Star Trek fan in me, because every time somebody would say something like that on Star Trek, you would have either Mr. Spock or Data step in and give this completely scientific explanation to, no, we're not going down that road. This is why it's happening. Yeah. This is what it means. It's just, yeah.
There's a part in the movie where Oprah says, don't you realize like all the things that had to happen in the universe to make you exactly the way you are? And I was like, that's probably right from her magazine.
It might be. And that's, you know what? That's great. That is.
Everyone should just go out and get the latest copy of O.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, because she starts giving this speech that is kind of something that people who are not necessarily religious find is very profound, is that if you look at the, the beginning of the universe, the evolution of life, the whatever, we are all here. People alive today are all here because this unbroken chain of things going right for our ancestors have brought us here. That is a very kind of almost religious-like observation. And it seems like, oh, wow, where's she going with this? Nowhere. She's not going anywhere with it.
She
gives this whole thing.
When a boy tells you have nice hair, you say thank you.
That's right. That's this kind of movie. It's just like, are we going somewhere? Is it going to be something? Is it going to connect? Is all this expedition going to set us on the path for this adventure that makes... Oh, no, it's just... Now we're going to this other planet where they talk to us about believing in yourself and loving, which is,
That's fine, too.
You know what it is? That's the thing. It's not that the message is bad. It's that it's giving believing in yourself and loving a bad name when those things are the mediocrity in movies like this. You know what I mean? So, yes.
That's one of the most, it was like, that's the least popular Bon Jovi song ever. You give believing in yourself a bad name.
That's right. All right. So, yeah. So, we've gone round and round. That's the kind of movies, that's one of the most irritating things about trying to review movies sometimes, is sometimes a movie's just blah. It's just meh. There's a lot going for it, and a lot not going for it.
The epitome of like a 5. Like, it's not offensively bad, but it's not good either.
Yeah.
It's a 5.
I'm going to say it's a 4 because near the ending,
because you hate Oprah.
I love Oprah. I really like Oprah. Oprah is much better than this. Yeah, it was just... Anyway. So, Sonia, is there anything else that you would like to say before... I was going to say, before we get the deluge of Twitter and internet hate for crapping all over this movie, but let's be honest, this movie's going to be forgotten in 3 weeks.
Could be.
So, we're going to be fine. Everything's fine.
I'm just going to say that the power has been inside you all along, Smith. And goodbye.
Bye! All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to episode 106 of Dorking Out. This is the Wrinkle in Time edition.
It's a really clever name, right?
It is. I was trying to think of some pun or something, and it's just that silence, hopefully that will be taken out electronically, was just me not being able to think of anything good. With me today, speaking of things that are not good.
Oh, you're
what
burnt,
a
Sonia.
son of a bitch. Why is he so dumb and mean at the same time? Anyway, with me today is my co-host, professional author, saint, and writer. Professional writer and author. Those are two different things.
Geez.
The distinguishing characteristic is, I don't know. Sonia Mansfield. Of the Sonia Show. Of the Sonia Mansfield. Sonia Show. Sonia Mansfield. Don't worry.
That's a really awesome intro. It's the nicest intro I've ever received.
By episode, I don't know, 150, 200, I'm sure I'll get it right.
Right. With me today is my co-host, a guy who won some awards and apparently wrote something, Christopher Allen Smith.
Or did he? Who knows? Maybe this is the kind of babbling work ethic he's got. It's all a sham, people.
It is.
There's nothing behind the curtain. Oh, my God.
Shall I tell people what we're talking about today?
Do we want to do this over? Do we want... Or you know what? We could tesseract this right back to the beginning. Do we want to take another shot at this?
Do you want to, Smith?
You know what? Yes, I do. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's go again.